Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today I'm excited to be jumping into the setup video for Star Wars Outer Rim from Fantasy Flight Games. Now, if you haven't checked out the unboxing I recently did on the channel, and you want to know more about what components come inside of the box, then a link to that will show up in the top right hand corner of this video right now. You can click on that in order to jump to that video. Then come back and join us as we go into the setup, as we move through the numerical order of the setup from this Learn to Play booklet to get the game to the table as quick as possible so that you can begin exploring the Outer Rim. The first step of the setup is to build the world map, and it's going to form a half circle on the table, starting on the far left with Konieczka and ending on the far right with Takodana, and those two end pieces you can see in the bottom left hand corner and the bottom right hand corner. And now that we've completed step number one, you can see that Konieczka is on the far left hand corner, the end piece is in place with the Rebel and the Syndicate icon on the far left hand side. And on the right hand side, we have Takodana as the last planet, and the end piece has the Imperial icon as well as the Hut icon down below. Step number two is all about setting up the patrol tokens on the end caps on either side of the game board. As you can see here, we have the Imperial icon as well as the Hut icon, and we also have all the patrol tokens corresponding to each of those icons listed here. To set up the patrol tokens, simply take the one which has the single pip, flip it over, and place it in the first position corresponding to the lane where the icons match, like so. Then take the second pip patrol marker, third and fourth, and put the one on top of each other, ensuring that the fourth pip marker is on the bottom, and then place it in the indicated space. Do this for all four factions on both end caps. The right hand side of the map should have the patrol token set up like this, and the left-hand side of the map should have the patrol tokens set up like this. Step number three is setting up the contacts. So find all the contact tokens that look like this. On the opposite side, you're going to find ones that have an actual individual that you're going to find within the galaxy. You're going to mix them up so that they're randomized. And from each of the three different color categories, white, green, and yellow, of course, in scaling difficulty, you're going to go ahead and randomly place them throughout the galaxy in the indicated space on the map. Now we're going to place one contact token face down on each of the contact spaces on the map, making sure that the colors and the number of pips match. So you can see right here the watermarked area for a contact along with the actual pip and the color. So we'll go ahead and grab one at random and place it like this, and do this for all of the contact spaces throughout the galaxy until every one has a contact filled in. When step number three is completed, the game board is going to look something like this, with all of the contact spaces filled out for the entire galaxy. The next step is to create the token supply. This includes separating the credits into denominations of 10,000, 5,000, and 1,000 stacks, as well as separating out the damage tokens and the goal tokens into different piles. Step number five is all about choosing your character. But if you are playing solo like I am, you have a choice between the 8 characters which came inside of the Outer Rim base box. And being that this channel is called Rolling Solo, I think Han Solo is the right choice to make here. So I'm going to go ahead and select Han Solo as the character for this playthrough. Once you've chosen your character, then find the character cards and find the character that you've chosen, in this case Han Solo, and ensure that the personal goal down here at the bottom of the card is showing face up. These character cards are double-sided. You're going to want to ensure that you have the right side facing up. We'll talk more about that in the playthrough as to what that means and entails, but you do have a personal goal out of the gates when you first select your character. Once you've selected your character, you're going to go ahead and find the 4 player boards inside the box, all of varying different colors. Pick the one you'd like to choose, take your character card you've chosen, and place it in the bottom left-hand corner of the player board, as well as grabbing the standee. And you're going to want to go ahead and find the plastic fame marker and slot it into the 0 position on your player board in the top left-hand corner. Next, find 4 reputation tokens, one for each of the major factions in the game. Place them on the reputation tracks in the neutral position, covering the faction's icon. The next major decision you'll be making is which starter ship you'd like to pilot. And you can see here the G1A Starfighter is the one that I've chosen. I have these stats here to the left, which denote speed, combat, amongst other things we'll talk about during the playthrough. Also has spots for cargo, mod, crew. As I talked about during the unboxing, those things change on the different ships you will pilot. Now on the opposite side of this starter ship sheet, you'll see a completely different ship. Now the layout is the same in terms of cargo, mod, and crew. There's no differences in terms of its slots, but there is differences between its stats, and that is going to play into your decision as to which of the two ships you'd like to pilot. Next, you'll want to find a reference card which you can place next to your player board. This is really going to help you out during the different phases of the game, especially when you're learning, and of course once you get past those initial learning stages, this will become second nature. The opposite side of this card also has ways to gain fame and talks about skill tests. And lastly, for step number 5, you get your credit tokens for every character. Now, Han Solo is going to receive 4,000 credits. If there was a second player, that player would get 6,000, a third 8,000, and finally a fourth 10,000 credits. Step number 6 is about character setup, and for that we're going to reference the character card. At the very bottom of the character card, but just above where it mentions piloting and tech, you can see a single line here, and it says setup. And this is really important right now, as we have to go ahead and set up card number 91 from the databank deck, which is this deck right here, and has a large amount of numbers all the way through it, which is again going to be part of the progression and story through Outer Rim. This is specifically telling you here with Han Solo to set up card 91. So we're going to go through the deck here and pull 91 out. After going through the databank cards, there were 391 cards in that deck, and so I randomly shuffled and drew one to start with for Han Solo. So just so you know, you won't always start in the same position with the same type of cargo or potentially a job or bounty as you would every other time you play. So there is going to be some variability to where you start as well. You can see here that I got luxury wares, and this requires me, as it is cargo, to transport this from my starting planet, the Ring of Kafrene, in order to get all the way to Nal Hutta with it in order to gain the reward of 5,000 credits. This is something we definitely want to do to get some money. So we're going to go ahead and be slotting this luxury wares card into the cargo slot or hold in my ship, and we're also going to be placing Han Solo's standee on his starting planet. And as you can see, the luxury wares have been now loaded into the cargo slot on our G1A Starfighter. And Han will begin his adventures in the Ring of Kafrene. Also at the bottom of the character card for Han Solo in the setup area where it says card 91, you'll also notice right next to it has a symbol that specifies reputation, and inside of that black symbol there's either a minus or a plus on your character card. Now in this case Han Solo has a minus, and it makes perfect sense as Jabba the Hutt is not so much of a fan of Han Solo, so Hutt's reputation in terms of the reputation track will start out in the negative position. So it's saying at setup we need to reduce the Hutt's reputation track for Han Solo down to the negative position. So we find the Hutt's reputation marker, and we're going to go ahead and slide this down into the negative position. Now, one thing to note as well, guys, is that you might happen to find a job or bounty card as one of your databank cards when you're setting up your character. And if that's the case, you'll slot it in underneath of your player board. In my case, I found cargo, so it gets slotted into my ship. Step number 7 is going to have us set up the decks and sheets. So first we'll start with the decks. You're going to separate the market cards into the 6 different decks according to their card backs. Very easy to find when you open up the game box for the first time. Shuffle each of these decks and place them face down in a row below the map, just like this. And then we're going to go ahead and reveal one card from the top of each of the decks. I've gone ahead and revealed the top card from each of the decks and placed it on top of the rest of the cards. Let's take a close-up look at each of the 6 cards. So we have two cards here that have keywords of job on them, a wanted card as well as a syndicate favor. I'll allow you guys the chance to pause the screen and read them if you'd like to. Also to the far right, we have some cargo here, stolen weapons that have a destination and a reward that we can potentially collect. On the far right hand side of the market, we have maneuvering thrusters, which is a mod which we can add to our ship in the mod slot. We also have a gift for Jabba we could potentially do as a cargo run, which would likely result, as I can see here, in 1 hut reputation increase, which would get us back to neutral with Jabba, which might be worthwhile. And on the far right hand side, we have the GX1 short hauler, which is another ship we could potentially purchase as an upgrade to our current starter ship. Next, you're going to want to separate the encounter cards into 7 different decks by card back. These are very easy to distinguish. As you can see, all the planets denoted on each of them. Very similar to Eldritch Horror, if you're familiar with that game. There's also some keywords on the cards letting you know what you can likely find on these encounter cards when going and encountering situations on these particular planets. So for instance, if you go to Kessel, you're going to find things involving illegal cargo. Or if you go to Naboo, you're going to find things that are going to increase your imperial reputation. Things like that are going to be throughout the galaxy for you as a benefit and give you higher odds of gaining those particular things based on the keywords. So these are good strategic things to keep in mind when moving about the galaxy, to know where to go to get the things you need to be successful and increase your fame. You'll also note at the very bottom here, there is a nav point deck as well. You'll want to go ahead and shuffle each of these decks and place them next to the planets that they belong to. You'll notice that there's 2 planets on each of the encounter decks. That's because each of these decks corresponds to one of the 6 major game tiles in the game, so you can easily put them on the outer rim of your map. And just for clarification, the nav point deck will associate itself with all of the yellow nav points you're going to find throughout the galaxy on your journeys. This will be used during the encounter phase for those nav points. Additionally, make sure that you keep the data bank deck in order and within easy reach during gameplay. Keep the unused ship sheets in a pile out of the way. This is the supply of unused ships, and players will be able to actually acquire these ships during the game. If we get so lucky, potentially Han Solo could be flying around in the Millennium Falcon. The last component that you'll need in the game are these 6 dice, so just make sure they're within easy reach as you'll be rolling them throughout the game. And that is going to conclude the setup for Star Wars Outer Rim, following numerically through the rulebook 1 through 7. Now, if you're playing this solo, as I am, you will have an AI opponent going up against you, but there's a couple key things that are really important to note when setting up that AI opponent. First off, the ship the AI opponent will use will always be the G9 Rigger. The opponent that you're playing against will always start with 6,000 credits, and you, as the controlling starting player, will start with 4,000 as we set up earlier. In terms of the character that you're going to choose to go up against as the AI opponent, there are some restrictions. In the setup section on the character card, you need to ensure that you choose a character to go up against that either specifies a 91, as Lando does, or a 92. I will go ahead now and follow the setup instructions as you normally would with any character, controlled AI, or a regular human opponent. And in this case, it's setup card 91, which is vehicle parts, cargo. So this is actually going to slip onto the G9 Rigger. It says the starting planet will be Nal Hutta, and the destination I'm going to is actually the same location where Han currently started the game. And if Lando does this, he's going to gain 5,000 credits. So the vehicle parts are now loaded onto Lando's G9 Rigger, and we're going to go ahead and finish off the setup here by increasing a faction of our choice based on the plus sign in this setup line here. Now I could choose one as it specifies, but I'm going to actually leave this up to a random chance because I get to choose, and it's an AI opponent, so I'm going to choose to be random about it. So we're actually going to go ahead and have the 4 sides of this dice, although there's a lot more than 4 sides, but there's really 4 different icons or different sides that you get uniquely, and I'm going to relate them back to the 4 different factions. So we're going to have the Hutt faction to be the blank side. We're going to have the first burst, which has the center like this, be this syndicate side right here. The solid burst, all black, is going to be the Imperials, and finally the eye will be the rebels. Let's see what happens. All right, it's solid black, so it looks like he's going to be on the Imperial side of things in terms of his alliance with the factions. Now we'll go ahead and place our AI opponent Lando on Nal Hutta. And last but not least, we have the AI deck represented by C-3PO, none other than a droid, of course, for AI intelligence. And this deck is going to be resolved throughout the gameplay to give the brains behind how Lando Calrissian will act in the Outer Rim. And this is going to conclude the solo setup video for Star Wars Outer Rim. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope to see you in the upcoming playthrough. And as always, keep on rolling solo.